On today's World Insight, with the Special Olympics in Berlin in full swing, we speak to Special Olympics Chairman Tim Shriver. We find out how special athletes can inspire us all.
Well, I'm endlessly inspired by the bravery of the athletes of Special Olympics. I'm endlessly inspired by the courage they have to always take a chance on each other. You know, these are people who typically have suffered great discrimination, and yet they almost always come with open arms.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. The 2023 Special Olympics World Games are in full swing in Berlin, Germany. The Special Olympics serve over 6 million Special Olympic athletes from more than 200 countries and regions to promote health, education, and a more unified world through the joy of sports. Tim Shriver, chairman of the Special Olympics International Board of Directors, said that 2023 Games intend to increase access to sports in as many places as possible. Earlier in Beijing, I talked to Mr. Shriver about the history and spirit of Special Olympics, which was founded by his mother, Eunice Kennedy, sister of former U.S. President John F. Kennedy. Joining us also are two former Chinese Special Olympic athletes. They shared a story about persistence and inspiration.
Good to see you. Nice to see you both. Thank you for joining me. So tell me what it's like, what you think makes for being a good teammate.
What I want the most is to integrate into the team. We can play basketball together and join various events together. Inclusion is so important because I'm working for Special Olympics. I took part in duty rotation. During the process, I found there's no gap between other athletes and me. I felt so joyful.
I think the most important things are teamwork and to do our best.
Rotation is a good idea for all of us in our work, because if we're stuck in one place, then we only think one way. But if we move around and we rotate to different roles in life, maybe we learn more about each other that way, I think, yeah.
And you can't go to the gym or you can't go with your team. You know what to do. You want to try it? You go like this. Okay. Oh, see? She knows already. Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Let's see, how long can you go? Oh my gosh. See, if you do this for 10 minutes, you'd be very sweaty and you get a strong core and back, shoulders. Good exercise. Ready to rest? Okay, rest.
Mr. Shriver, good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be
Welcome
back.
back to
Thank
Beijing.
you. It's wonderful to be back.
How many years?
It's been 4 years since I've been here, but you know, I've had the great privilege of visiting China probably 20 times in the previous 20 years in deepening the collaboration and friendship between the Special Olympics movement and people throughout the country, and in extending the power of sport to promote inclusion. So it's a joy to be back. This is a country that has been friendly and welcoming to the Special Olympics movement, and I'm here to continue to celebrate and try to grow that same energy and spirit in the future.
Yeah, many memorable moments, isn't it?
Unbelievable moments. The World Games, of course, in Shanghai were an extraordinary moment. 7,000 athletes, the gigantic crowds that came to watch them from all over the world in Shanghai in 2007. The expansion of friendship centers in Beijing and Shanghai and many cities, the inclusive centers that are growing in cities around the country, visiting schools, going to national games in places like Xi'an and Harbin and other places, and really just celebrating deep friendships. This is a message, I think, that's so important in the world today, that where others see barriers, in our movement we've always tried to build bridges, and the friendships that have grown here have led to significant and meaningful change for people with intellectual challenges in China and around the world. I'm very proud of that.
And it's not just in China, but also the world has been suffering from the pandemic. We have been seeing the Special Olympics games absent for 4 years.
Yes.
So I know the upcoming moment is going to be very exciting in Berlin, but you know, how do you reflect upon the past 4 years? What have you learned?
It's a good question. First of all, I've learned that isolation is a cancer. It's terrible. It's painful. It damages us. We human beings don't flourish when we're isolated from each other. This is a message that I think I've learned in a new way about people with intellectual challenges. Their isolation, which was before COVID and continues after COVID, we have to fight against that. We have to break down these walls of isolation. COVID damaged us, but it reminds us the importance of connection, of being together. We have to make new efforts. You know, it's difficult for people. Sometimes they're thinking, oh, well, I'm tired, I don't want to go out, I don't want to volunteer, I don't want to get into sport and other activities, but we need the energy to get us back, to get back, yeah. So we need that shot in the arm, and I think our athletes will inspire people to say, look at them, they're up, they're out, they're engaged again, they're making a difference, maybe it's time for me too.
They're absolutely inspiring, to say the least.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not just about coming back or resuming.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot of the time relearning, isn't it?
It's relearning, but it's also learning something new. I don't think we want to go back to where we were before. Where we were before, there were many barriers in schools to children with intellectual disabilities. Where we were before, there were many barriers to good health care for people with intellectual disabilities. There were many barriers to employment. So now we have a fresh start. Let's break down those walls. Let's not go back. Let's go forward to a more inclusive and a more joyful set of relationships. And I think Special Olympics can help with that. We can engage people volunteering in unified. Our goal here is to expand inclusive sport, sport for children with and without intellectual disabilities, playing together on the same team in schools all over China. What a miracle it would be to have thousands of schools that have sports programs for children who don't have disabilities, blended with those who have disabilities in a Special Olympics unified sports program. At the community level, this would be a miracle.
You know, you met earlier with the Special Olympics athletes in China.
Yes.
They are both inspiring.
Yeah.
You know, what is it like for you to interact with these people, like real people that are making an effort to, you know, bring them out of the old circumstances and also bring everybody else together?
Well, I'm endlessly inspired by the bravery of the athletes of Special Olympics. I'm endlessly inspired by the courage they have to always take a chance on each other. You know, these are people who typically have suffered great discrimination, and yet they almost always come with open arms. Wouldn't it be great if our political leaders did that? Wouldn't it be great if when political leaders find themselves confronted by adversity, they open their arms to the adversity and said, let me understand, let me welcome, let me find ways to overcome this adversity? Wouldn't that be a good response instead of what we typically see? So, I mean...
well, the political leaders might say, well, they are doing just a sports competition. Of course, they could do that. But we are in a political rivalry, they might argue.
Yeah, they might, but they'd be, I think, misguided to not realize that they're also involved in trying to build the team, a global team. They're not only fighting a political battle, they're actually trying to lead nations, cities, provinces, regions, states, to bring people together around common goals, whether the goals are economic goals or political goals or military goals or environmental goals or educational goals. You know, for big goals, you need everybody. The wise political leader tries to find ways to bring everybody into the work of accomplishing great tasks.
That's also what I want to ask you, Tim. How have you managed, I mean, both from your mother's generation, now your generation, to bring all of these people together? I mean, if you look at volunteers, hundreds and thousands of them around the world, they're so devoted, not even a penny involved.
That's right.
And even during the pandemic, they are still contributing. You know, how are you trying to build this international community? It's amazing. Maybe they can learn something from you.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we all have just beneath the surface a desire for peace and understanding. Sometimes we hide it, because we're ready for the battle. But right beneath the surface, there's a tender side to each of us. The Special Olympics movement invites that out. It says, this is safe here. Bring your heart, bring your compassion, bring your joy. We will welcome it in this movement. We won't judge you. We won't be cynical. We'll be hopeful here. So the Special Olympics movement has created a safe place for hope and compassion and progress. And when you create that, people come in droves because they see this is who I really want to be. This is a movement for volunteers who want to be their best selves. And that's millions and millions and millions of people. The only limitation we have is just creating a community big enough to welcome everyone who wants to join.
I know you are a jet setter traveling around the world trying to talk to governments, to businesses, to all the stakeholders that you can incorporate into this movement. Tell me more about this change of strategy you have to use these days, so to speak, to talk to these people because the circumstances have changed.
Well, I think there's a big hunger in the world right now for strategies that address issues, we call them diversity or equity or inclusion. Many companies have new strategists for inclusion and diversity. The pandemic revealed to many, many people that there are lots of inequities and barriers to inclusion. So people are now open to the idea that we must prioritize diversity and inclusion and equity. That's good news. That's an opportunity for us.
And to make sure it's not just a decoration for businesses.
It's not just a decoration, not a check the box. It's a meaningful change of strategy, of supply chains, of employment practices, of product design, the whole range of things. We have an opportunity now. If I were here 10 or 20 years ago to talk about inclusion, most people would say, what does that mean? Today, everybody knows. At least they have a sense of what it means. So we have a big door that's open. It's up to us to walk through it and provide real substantive changes. So not just what can you do to check the box, but what can we do to change our schools, all of them, so that every child in China or every child in India or the United States or Germany or France or Kenya or Peru, it doesn't matter where, every child grows up learning to play and learn with their peers who have an intellectual disability. Why not every child? Why not every child growing up with inclusive play, inclusive sports, inclusive learning? It's a great opportunity for countries. So that's our message. Our message is let's do beyond the talk to the actions that will actually produce the kind of gains and changes we all want. Almost everybody wants these changes. It's just now a question of marshaling the will and the resources to make them come to life.
If I could have the humbleness to compare, for example, your generation, the circumstances you're facing compared to your mother's generation, she's such a lovable person. A lot of people that I've been talking to, both within the Special Olympics movement and also people who know her, has been, saying very high words about her.
Yes.
But it seems that at that time, this is an organization, for example, based in the United States. At that time, the U.S. society is on the way up, one could say. But now there are a lot of doubts about where U.S. is going. And as a result, whether an international organization based in the U.S. started there will still have the persuasive power as they did before. How do you face, perceptions like this?
Well, we don't see ourselves as an organization that's relying on the persuasive power of one country or another. We rely on the persuasive power of human dignity. That's always been our message. If we were an American organization, we wouldn't have been accepted in Cuba or Russia or many generations ago in China or many other countries. So we're not an American organization looking to export American or United States principles. We are a human organization, a humanitarian organization looking to build on humanitarian principles. The principle of human dignity, universal human dignity, no exceptions. The principle of inclusion, of respect for human dignity and building communities of belonging. The principle of competition and hard work to achieve great goals for humanity. These are the principles on which we build. I don't worry about changing geopolitical fortunes for individual nations. I worry about giving people reason to hope. And that's our mission, and that's why our athletes are the best leaders that I've met in the world, honestly.
Maybe they should come to see the Special Olympics to understand the synergy between people.
I would, the more people that see, the more people are changed. I mean, all of us in the Special Olympics movement, whether we're staff members or leaders or volunteers or sponsors or friends or government leaders, we've all been changed by the movement. We've had our hearts opened by the movement. We've had our minds opened by the movement. We've become more powerfully committed to human dignity because of the athletes. So I always ask people, just come once. Don't come for your whole life. Don't commit to a year or even a month. Just commit to an hour. Come watch, come shoot baskets, come play football, and then we'll see. The change will come, I'm sure of it.
You're a very grounded person. I can feel that when you're talking to the Special Olympics athletes. You know, of course, you're coming from an esteemed family. Every member almost of that family has been playing a constructive role of their time. So how do you see your approach among all in your family and beyond? How do you cultivate your own approach? I think that's a very interesting question, isn't it?
I have a wonderful family, and I have great parents, brothers, sister, children, wife, cousins, uncles, aunts.
It's a big family.
Grandparents. Yeah, it's a big family, and I'm very proud. You know, I was raised in a family that had a very strong faith, and I spent some time looking at the great traditions, the wisdom traditions, the faith traditions of the world. What they all seem to share is a message that to cultivate the inner voice is very important. Here in China, the great traditions of teachers have always pointed to the power and the urgency of looking inward for your center, for your calm, for your strength, for your goodness. I would say my advice is to look inward, find your inner voice, not just your career or your economic goals. Those are very important, or your relationship goals, but also make sure you know who you are at your best.
I'm very interested in this because what you did before in the high school and tried to put into curriculum also has a lot to do with what we need today.
Yes.
You see that people are very distracted, but at the same time confused as to where the world is going.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, an individual would be their fate. But I guess it's very important to reflect back as to how we try to manage that over the decades. You know, we had the Cold War before.
Yeah.
We had a financial crisis before.
Yeah.
And we certainly have different kinds of natural disasters before. So how have we managed, during your work of the Special Olympics, I'm sure you have also been doing it step by step. So maybe you can help us to go through some of your past experiences to understand the importance of emotional connection and interaction.
Well, I think one of the most important things to realize is that when it comes to emotion, there are skills.
Yes.
It doesn't just happen to you.
No.
There are skills and there are practices, not just principles, not just ideas, but practice. So, we created these curricula, as you point out, what we call social and emotional learning programs. They're very useful for people of all ages.
But of course, right now we saw some debates about that. saying, well, maybe they should be out of the curriculum.
Yeah, that's a mistake. Misunderstanding, I should say. These curricula lead to improved test scores, they lead to improved behavior, they lead to improved relationships, they reduce emotional distress. So, yes, there's some debate, there always is, but for the vast majority of parents are starving for this. We have a mental health crisis in children.
Indeed.
Anxiety, depression, even suicidal ideation, all over the world. Young people struggling, anxious, fearful of the future. Let's teach them.
Particularly through the pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic made it all worse.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go away quickly. So we need to make it safe for children to learn how to manage that stress and how to reach out for help when they need it and how to build relationships of trust. You know, this is where the Special Olympics movement comes back.
Right.
We should start in schools, because if you develop positive attitudes toward those who are different when you're 7 or 10 or 12 years old, you don't have to change your attitude when you're our age. You know, we don't have to do a whole campaign to change attitudes. Why not have a massive global movement to build positive attitudes? And then we don't have to worry about changing them when people are adults. They will grow up with the kind of positive attitudes that can lead to the kind of more just and trusting and hopeful future that our children deserve.
Have we lost that ability?
No. It's under stress. It's a difficult time, but we haven't lost the ability. It lies just beneath the surface, waiting to be awakened. The job of leaders when I was a kid, when I looked to leaders, I saw people who wanted to inspire people to be their best, not scare people into being their worst. We need leaders who can inspire us to be our best. Human beings will respond.
I saw you listen to the Special Olympics athletes very closely. You even asked them about how they've been doing on training over the past few years. You are having great listening capabilities.
Thank you.
I want the magic remedy. How to make that happen? Well, putting jokes aside, really listening has become such an important skill these days.
Yeah.
Whether it's Special Olympics movement or our world today.
I think there is a human tendency to look at someone else and judge based on the cover.
First 2 seconds already.
That's right. There's the old expression of judging a book by its cover. We judge each other by the cover. I think the real gift is to suspend judgment. Remove, just even for a moment, the judgment. You are this or that or this, and just be present long enough to see who the person really is at their deepest core. If we can develop the eyes to see like that, I think we'd all be happier.
It's such an important capability, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Before we go,
Yes.
the Special Olympics is coming in Berlin. So what are your expectations? How do you expect the athletes to do?
Look, I think we're going to see the biggest sporting event in the world in Berlin, the most inspiring sporting event ever in Berlin. We're going to go to a place that's famous for its walls to prove to the world we can break down every wall. We're going to go in a time of division and fear to promote hope and belief in the best in the human spirit. I can't wait. There's this bottled up energy in the world. Let's get out. And even if you can't come, I hope people will tune in to the television coverage. As I've said many times, just watch for a few minutes. You will see that there is a possible way of living in the world that is very different from what most people will tell you. But it's possible. Follow the athletes of Special Olympics. They'll show you how.
Absolutely inspiring. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank
All
you for
the
having
best
me.
to the games.
Thank you for having me.
Our interview with Tim Shriver on the Special Olympic Games. And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight to check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of the team. Thanks for being with us. Bye for now.